don't run to get ready for bikini season. I run so that in the year 2030, when I'm locked out of my electric car for having a bad social credit score, I can get outside the 15-minute city limits and escape the United Nations robocops that are after me for having a steak after I've reached my CO2 limit.
Huh. I always tell people running is a scam and that they should be sprinting, but for that reason, yeah. You're going to need to learn how to do that. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Gradowski here of wearechange.org, and there's a lot of absolutely wild and crazy news out there to get into today, as, of course, the situation is not all right, and it's just going to get way worse and way crazier, especially in 2024, as, of course, we approach the new year with some absolute crazy badonka-dunk-like foreign policy and election news that actually has a lot of people bewildered and confused, especially with the latest truth from the former president of the United States. Yeah, we're going to get into that, plus all the latest news here on this independent media broadcast. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, you can get it on TheBestPoliticalShirts.com. And the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast was, of course, highlighted by @LibertyCappy, highlighting a woman detailing why she's exercising. It looked like this might be actually my tinfoil hat on Instagram. We are going to be doing our best to source the original creator of this, as of course it's a brilliant skit, a funny skit, particularly funny because it's true, and everything she says literally checks out with the future plans that many very powerful globalists want for you. This, as according to some analysts, our world is becoming more unsafe and uncertain. This, as today, we have a lot of news reports of heightened security alerts, especially coming from very ethnically diverse places like France, along with other Western foreign nations that are, of course, expecting a lot of protests surrounding the situation in the Middle East, but also a lot of security threats, as, of course, a lot of people in the Middle East are not too fond of Western foreign policy and its support for a conflict unfolding right now in Gaza. Although in some other places, like in Los Angeles, the public health department there literally is launching tweets telling people to enjoy their fentanyl responsibly. Yes, you heard that correctly. This is not a satire tweet. This is not the Babylon Bee. This is the LA Public Health Department literally tweeting out, hey, you're going to be doing some fentanyl. Make sure you're doing it responsibly. Specifically telling its citizens to carry fentanyl tests, to carry Narcan with them. So then, of course, when you do take the fentanyl, you could, of course, reverse an OD from happening. Now, talk about a wild party, and that's something that, of course, a lot of people will also expect in Times Square, as police officers there probably will be being met by a lot of pro-Palestinian protesters, as last year, there was even an incident of a deranged, crazy individual using a machete against the NYPD officer in Times Square at a security checkpoint. A man who, of course, was a radicalized Islamist, as me and the Beanie Man Tim Pool were actually in Times Square during this incident. This, as already, that night security was very tight. It's probably going to be a lot tighter today, as, of course, we get new reports of the United Kingdom and the United States preparing to launch another major offensives now in Yemen, specifically going after the Houthi rebels that are linked to Iran. Another very aggressive foreign policy action that will definitely stir the pot and anger the local populations there. This, as domestically the United States stirs up a lot of problems, pisses off a lot of people, and then it investigates concerned parents who go to parent-teacher conferences. And, of course, goes after the political opponents of the Democratic Party that have nothing to do with that situation at all, while also targeting and criminalizing Catholic pro-life activists and imprisoning people for political speech. So, yeah. Are we into some kind of danger because of these failed policies by the intel agencies and the U.S. Pentagon? Absolutely. But hey, as your life becomes more distressed and unsafe, at least you could have a t-shirt on TheBestPoliticalShirts.com. As, of course, we definitely recommend people do not follow the herd and stand out as much as they can by representing political thoughts and ideas. That, of course, will not only spark conversation, but critical thinking by the average citizen out there who will either have their minds blown or understand that they are not alone when it comes to their larger discontent to society and its madness that it is spiraling into, especially for the 2024 presidential elections. This, as of course, we also have a lot of shirts specifically centered around the ATF and the FBI, as this is one of our favorite iterations that I think is a little accurate. It might be a little bit too accurate, especially with the story that we have available for you today, as the shirts are interesting to say the least. There's a lot of shirts that we cannot show you here on this particular broadcast, but buying a shirt not only supports us as an independent media organization, and it's really awesome to see so many incredible individuals buy these shirts. I even see people randomly walking down the street wearing these t-shirts, as of course they're extremely popular, and it's just humbling and awesome to see such an impact, such a cultural jamming message being sent every single day. As of course, a lot of the people who buy these shirts will tell you this is one way to definitely spark up some very interesting conversations, meet like-minded individuals, and more importantly, do your own lazy form of activism. Click right now on TheBestPoliticalShirts.com. The link is down below. Click it right now and get yourself a shirt. As of course, the national security state is let's just be a little bit honest and frank here, definitely not working in the American people's and country's best interest, as diversity, equity, and inclusion has been on their top priority list, as of course recruitment numbers for the U.S. military have been at an all-time low, as political prosecution of individuals has been at an all-time high, as of course it is the national security state as well as domestic intelligence agencies here within the United States that, according to WikiLeaks, that according to the Twitter files, that according to many of the publicized documents and whistleblowers, are a part of a larger censorship effort that essentially has been telling Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, and any social media platform out there who has the ability to speak and who does not. A lot of these censorship efforts are in the direct hand of institutions like the FBI that literally went after individuals and silenced their political speech. The latest action is, of course, Facebook just now announcing that they have suspended the Libs of TikTok account, which they claim violated community standards. Again, very vague term and services implemented in many different ways, as the decision is usually made in Washington, D.C. by federal police bureaucrats deciding arbitrarily that they don't like what people have to say politically, and therefore they need to be squashed, censored, silenced, demonetized, downranked in the algorithm, and have their speech utterly destroyed by tax dollars that pay their salary. This, as of course, the main chief vector of attack by these intelligence agencies have been the supporters of the former president of the United States, that of course being Donald J. Trump, who of course has a very contentious relationship, or as now people are saying, the FBI really doesn't like Donald Trump, but Donald Trump, for some reason, and throughout his political career, always made very kind of bewildering moves, gestures, comments, and political actions that favor the people who really do not like him and have taken action up against him. That particular being the FBI, which Donald Trump has actually called for having a new and spectacular headquarters. Yes, this, as many of his supporters and even Republicans are just utterly confused at the latest Truth Social message he sent out to his followers, where he says that the FBI should have a new and spectacular building in the, quote, best location in our crime-ridden and filthy, dirty, graffiti-scattered capital. As he is talking about how he wants to, quote, bring back, restore, and rebuild Washington, D.C. himself, how he wants to make it a crime-free place, and how the FBI should not be fleeing that particular location, and that they should be doing everything to, quote, make it safe and not move the FBI towards an outside location in Maryland. This, as a lot of what they're discussing, is, of course, the FBI seeking a larger building than the U.S. Pentagon that will be a mega security fortress inside of Washington, D.C. that, of course, will cost taxpayers a huge sum of money. This, as a lot of fellow Republicans, like U.S. Congressmember Matt Gaetz, are speaking out against this, saying that this is rotten to its core, and has rejected Donald Trump's call and the policy to build him a new and spectacular, huge Pentagon-like security fortress within Washington, D.C., because according to Matt Gaetz, you don't reward corruption. This as Matt Gaetz is joined by 5 other Republicans that are trying to introduce legislation that will call for the halting of this new FBI building that Donald Trump wants, which will use $375 million in taxpayer funds in order to finance this new FBI spectacular headquarters. This says, of course, there's also 3 options to where they might relocate the headquarters. One option is in Maryland, one option is in Virginia. But with just how weaponized the FBI has become, especially with the DOJ, especially with the political prosecution of opponents, why should they be rewarded for their bad behavior is a question that a lot of people are asking themselves, including Vivek Ramaswamy, that took this opportunity to call for the shutting down of the entire FBI, announcing on his own social media platform that this is, quote, more practical than it sounds, describing how 56% of the Bureau are professional bureaucrats that, quote, should be immediately fired. 44% of the employees are actual special agents, intel analysts, and how a lot of those special federal police officers should be narrowed down to focus on federal law enforcement and, not political prosecution of individuals for expressing legal lawful speech. Yeah, you think that wouldn't be too hard to understand here, as of course Vivek goes on in great detail and talks about the reassignments that would happen specifically to the U.S. Marshal Service, to the Department of Defense, to the Department of Homeland Security, to the U.S. Secret Service, and with essentially the FBI becoming akin to what a lot of political analysts have described as an American KGB-style repressive federal agency. This call by Vivek Ramaswamy has been met by individuals saying, yeah, I'm absolutely in line with this policy, as it is a direct stance against the former president of the United States policy that wants to essentially give the FBI whatever they want. To add more leverage and boldness to the stance, Vivek Ramaswamy also just announced this a couple hours ago.
Appreciate what you're saying about January 6th. You could add Ruby Ridge, which has
Yes.
Iowa ties.
That's actually a good point.
And Vicki Weaver, you go by her brother's house out here, and what happened to them. You
It's a good example of the same politicized
FBI,
justice.
The whole 3-letter agencies have been screwing us for
corrupt.
a long time. So appreciate what
Thanks.
you do.
We're going to change that. Thank you, my man.
Courage is inspiring.
I appreciate that. We're not going to stop till we get it done. I promise you that.
As Vivek is now tweeting about Ruby Ridge, the Weaver family, and the absolute ridiculousness of that entire case that the FBI was never held accountable for when it came to their larger actions against the Weaver family. And whatever you might say about these 3-letter agencies, I think it's fair to say that trying to hold them more accountable rather than trying to give them everything they want would be the more rational kind of approach here, as another U.S. Congressmember, Thomas Macy, who has been campaigning for Ron DeSantis, came out and said clearly that, quote, the FBI does not need a spectacular new building, with a facepalm emoji, with some people going after Thomas Macy, reminding him that the Republicans have essentially been giving everything to the FBI that they wanted, which Thomas Macy responded that he actually voted against, and that it's the former president of the United States that is trying to give them everything that they want. Now, the larger question is, why is Donald Trump making this very wild, bewildering statement that is confusing a lot of his supporters and his base, particularly when, of course, the intel agencies have been undermining him, have been politically attacking him, and doing a lot of underhanded, really unfair things to him? Well, that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves, as even major Democratic establishment operatives are talking about how the plan to kick Donald Trump off of the ballot is ripping this country apart, and I would actually agree with him on that. I think Vivek's stance makes more sense here, as a lot of people are trying to play 4D chess already and trying to explain how the FBI having a new building in D.C. is actually good because they'll allegedly do something about the crime. And again, we're talking about the same federal agency that has taken agents off of child trafficking cases and put them on cases about individuals walking around a Capitol building or people non-violently protesting things like Planned Parenthood. And this is the same agency that infiltrates parent-teacher school conferences because parents are concerned about what their children are learning. This as the borders are wide open and there are some actual legitimate security threats that the United States is facing that clearly these intel agencies aren't prioritizing. Lots of people are even scared to talk about this particular issue, but this is an issue that needs to be talked about more than ever, as of course the safety and security of you, your nation, your country is at stake here, and clearly these intel agencies have something else that is a top priority to them, and clearly you're not on top of that list. If you disagree with me, let me know why down in the comment section below. Are there some arguments that you could be making right now that could prove me wrong? Well, I want to hear them. I want to hear all sides of the argument. I'm not always right. This is just my opinion. This is just my perspective. If you appreciated it, share it with your friends and family members. Truly, getting the shirts on TheBestPoliticalShirts.com means a lot, and I can't thank you guys enough for doing that, sharing this video, and being here with me. Have an incredible, happy, freaking new year. Write out the things that you want to do in 2024. There's going to be a lot of adversities. There's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of ish hitting the fan. But that still shouldn't stop you from living your best, healthiest, most amazing, incredible life. And that starts with you thinking about what that life would be. Write it down on a piece of paper, set your goals, and do everything in your power to try to reach them. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.